Hey everyone, welcome to Chapter 8. This is our special sense chapter, and this also is the week where you will be taking your midterm. So we're in the middle of our semester. Can't believe that, can you? Seems like it's going by so fast. So, special senses, hello. There we go. Special senses include smell, taste, sight, hearing, and equilibrium. We're going to look actually at sight first, then hearing and equilibrium, and then lastly we'll do smell and taste. Or I won't say most, I'll say many of our special senses are large, complex sensory organs, but there are some that are very small sensory structures. And so this is kind of a reminder from your chapter 7, and actually also kind of a reminder to the whole homeostatic mechanism. Remember that there are 3 basic functions of the nervous system and 3 basic functions of the homeostatic or structures of the homeostatic mechanism. You have to have sensory input, integration, and then motor output. And this is going to also occur within our special senses. All of the special senses occur in the head. So your sight, your hearing, equilibrium, your taste and smell are all located within the cranial region. Okay. There we go. All right. And it goes twice. All right. So of all the sensory receptors, the majority are found within the eye. We have 70% of all of our sensory receptors are found in our eyes. Each eye has over 1 million nerve fibers that send signals to the brain. We have a lot of different accessory structures, including muscles that move our eye so that we can see in different areas while looking straight forward. We have eyelids that protect, conjunctiva that protects, and a lacrimal apparatus that produces tears which protect. It's amazing, a lot of protection there, right? So if you look here, here's your eyelid. I didn't mention, but we have the eyelashes and the eyebrow. Both of these hairs help to keep materials from getting into the eye. So they trap and keep materials from getting into the eye. Over the white of the eye, we have a thin membrane called the conjunctiva. It's a highly vascular membrane, and so you see those little blood vessels. Those are all part of the conjunctiva. And then the lacrimal apparatus you don't see here, but the lacrimal apparatus is going to produce tears, and that's up in the superior eye region. So the eyelids are going to cover the eye, and they help to keep the eye moist because they help in movement of eye or of the lacrimal fluid. There is your eyelashes then protect the eye from any potential materials trying to get into the eye from the external environment. Within the region of the eyelashes, we also have tarsal glands. These secrete an oily material that lubricates the eye. We have ciliary glands that also are located within the or between the eyelashes that produce the oily secretions. The conjunctiva is a highly vascular kind of clear membrane that covers the white of the eye, and it helps to increase the moisture of the eye, and it also feeds the sclera, which is the white of the eye. Then we have this lacrimal gland. The lacrimal gland produces lacrimal fluid, which consists of water and a lot of special chemicals that can help to lubricate and protect the eye There are enzymes that can break down any potential damaging agents that get onto the eye's surface, and then they drain into a lacrimal duct that's found within the lacrimal bone. And so here you have the lacrimal gland producing tears. The tears run across the eye, and then they move into this lacrimal bone, the little tiny ducts within the bone that lead to the nasal cavity and to the throat. There are 6 muscles that help in movement of the eye. So we have a superior oblique, inferior oblique. We have a medial and lateral rectus muscle, superior and inferior rectus muscle. And so this is just showing the other muscles that I've already talked about. The movement, the lateral rectus moves the eye laterally. The medial rectus moves the eye medially. The superior rectus moves the eye, turns the eye medially and superiorly. Inferior rectus inferiorly and medially. Then inferior oblique elevates and rotates the eye laterally. Superior oblique depresses and turns the eye laterally. So all of these movements allow us to move our eyes medially, laterally, superiorly, and inferiorly. At this point, you should be able to answer a few questions. What are the 5 special senses? Where are most sensory receptors located? What are the accessories of the eye? What are the functions of these accessories? And what are the 6 muscles that control eye movement? So if we delve a little deeper into the eye, we find out that the eye has 3 different layers or tunics. The outermost tunic is called the fibrous tunic, and that's that white of the eye that we look at. Then the intermediate layer is called the vascular tunic. And the inner layer, the most inner layer, deepest layer, is the sensory layer. Within the eye, internal, we have 2 different fluids. We have a fluid that's in the anterior compartment called aqueous humor, and a fluid that's in the posterior compartment called vitreous humor. The lens of the eye actually divides the anterior and the posterior regions of the eye. And so here you can see the outermost region is called the sclera. On the anterior aspect, that outermost region is called the cornea. So the sclera and the cornea make up that fibrous tunic. This is composed of dense regular connective tissue. It's a highly avascular tissue, and it's mainly protective in function. The next layer is the choroid, and you can see the choroid here. It's a colorful layer. This layer provides a mechanism for taking in stray light rays so that you don't have weird images forming. You only see what you're supposed to see. The innermost region then is the retina, or the sensory region, sensory tunic, and the retina is where we have all of the receptors for sight located. This fluid here is called vitreous humor, and up here we have aqueous humor. This is our lens that splits the 2 chambers. This is another picture showing the same structure. We'll talk about these different parts in a little bit. So the sclera is the white of the eye, and the anterior aspect, and that makes up the majority of the fibrous layer. The anterior aspect is a transparent tissue that covers the iris and lens. And that's known as the cornea. sorry. The next layer is that choroid. It's a very vascular structure, and its function is to prevent light from scattering so that you get a perfect image. Anteriorly, the vascular layer contains the ciliary body and the iris. The iris is a smooth muscle that controls pupil dilation. So the iris is what we typically see as our eye color. The ciliary body is what has two different components: ciliary muscle, and then the ciliary process. Sorry, ciliary process is what produces aqueous humor. The ciliary muscle is what controls the lens. And then the innermost region is the retina. There's an outer layer called the pigmented layer that absorbs any excess light. And the inner layer contains those millions of photoreceptors. Photoreceptors can be broken into two groups, rods and cones. Rods are the most common ones. They're the light, or they're the black and white vision or the dark vision. And then cones are the bright and color vision. I'm going to stop for a second. I'll be right back. So sensory information is going to move from the photoreceptors to bipolar neurons, and the bipolar neurons then are going to converge, forming the ganglionic cells. As the ganglionic cells move towards the brain, they form an optic nerve. The optic disc is the region where the optic nerve leaves the eye and moves into the brain. And so the optic disc is actually also known as our blind spot. So here you can see cones and rods. We have more rods than cones, all sending signals to these bipolar neurons. You get multiple bipolar neurons sending signal, or multiple rods and cones sending signals to these bipolar neurons. Bipolar neurons then all send signals to these ganglionic cells, which all merge to form the optic nerve. So the optic nerve leaves the eye at a region known as the optic disc. So this area has no rods or cones in it, and this is the blind spot that we have. So rods are the most common receptors in the eye, and they allow for dark vision or black and white vision. They also produce our peripheral vision, so we can see when we're looking straight ahead, we can still see out to the sides. Cones then are what produce our color vision. So these are going to be densest in a region of the retina called the fovea centralis. And this is the area where we have the best visual acuity. So this is where the majority of those receptors are located, and we have a really sharp image there. There are 3 types of cones. Each of those cones is going to be sensitive to different wavelengths, which is what allows us to see in so many different colors. So we have cones that see blue wavelengths. We have cones that see green wavelengths, and then we have cones that see into the red wavelengths. And so blue, green, and red together help us to see multiple colors or the entire spectrum of colors. I'm going to stop here so that we can start the next video on the lens, okay? Bye.